Hi, I'm Adele, and today we're going to be going over a full body massage. We're going to quickly run through our bed setup and the utensils that you're going to need. You'll need your body massage oil. I've got my alcohol swabs to disinfect my client's feet. We've got our Velcro towel for our client. Bed setup, we've got 2 large towels underneath, 1 towel on top, and our blanket. Over at the head of the bed, we have another large towel and we have the pillow underneath, and our headband. I'm going to get my client to come through and she's going to lay face up to begin with. Don't forget to always check with your client how the pressure's feeling. Jen, how's that pressure?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
While I massage my model's first leg, I won't be explaining the movements because the camera angle doesn't allow you to see my hands. So please just watch and take note of how slow my movements are, my positioning of my body. I'm always bending my knees, not arching my back over, and I'm making really long, slow movements. I'll explain these movements once I move on to Jenny's second leg. I'm just applying the massage medium over my model's leg, and I'm going to start with 3 effleurage movements over the entire leg. These are long, evenly pressured movements. I'm covering the entire leg. You can see how slow my hands are moving. Now moving on to that upper thigh, where I do 3 effleurage just over that top thigh. These are a little bit more firmer. Now I'm doing single-handed knuckling over that outer thigh. So I'm doing 3 rotations before I bring my hand back to the bottom of the knee and start again. Now doing double-handed kneading over the top of the thigh. This can be quite a firm pressure. It's quite a big muscle, the thigh. And again, I'm doing 3 movements and then bringing my hands back down to the knee and restarting. Now this is double-handed kneading. So I'm almost pinching the skin. See how I am bending my knees while I do this, and I'm moving my hands from the inner thigh to the outer thigh. This is the wringing movement, so I'm putting pressure with my thumb and my finger while I wring that leg out, like you would wring a towel of water. Finish off with our appointment movements. Now I'm moving to using my thumbs, frictions around that knee. Keep this nice and light because the knee is quite sensitive. Making those movements really fluid. I'm going to do 3 effleurage movements over that lower leg, crossing my hands over the knee. Back to our kneading, side to side over that inner calf. So again, it's like kind of pinching the skin. I'm going to move to the foot of the bed. We're going to do some circular movements with our fingertips around either side of the ankle. We're going to massage and squeeze the back of the ankle, which is the Achilles tendon. Now I'll move on to the top of the foot. So I'm bringing my thumbs in between the metatarsals of the foot. Just working my fingers down the foot. Now on each toe, I'm working from the little toe to the big toe, and each one I do 3 circular frictions. I stretch the toe and I rotate the toe. Now we're kneading the bottom of the foot, so we're crossing our thumbs over here. See how I've bent my knees again? I'm not arching the back. Now I'm knuckling the bottom of the foot, making sure I really cover all of that surface. I'm bending and extending that foot. And I'm going to finish off with my 3 effleurage movements over the entire leg. Now we're going to move on to the first arm. Now we've moved on to the arm, so I'm doing my effleurage movements over the entire arm, bringing my fingertips up underneath that arm. Nice, long, slow movements. So doing our kneading to that upper arm. Again, we're like pinching the skin, moving our hands backwards and forwards. Really working up onto that shoulder. Doing our deportment, so we're chopping that top half of the arm. Now we're doing deep knuckling just to those triceps. Nice slow movements. Going to bring both my hands together. We're going to knuckle the top of the arm right over that shoulder, really putting a good amount of pressure when you get to that shoulder. We're going to do that 3 times. And then we're going to move into our effleurage movements over the entire arm again. Nice slow, long movements, bringing our fingertips underneath that arm. I'm going to move on to our circular frictions. So we're using your thumb to make nice big circles. And we're going to start on the top of the arm, so the outer arm. Just working our way up to the elbow and then bringing that hand back down. Then we turn the hand over. We do the same on the inner arm. You can see how big those movements are. We're going to do our circular frictions over the wrist bones. So I'm using my thumbs to circle those 2 bones. Onto the top of the hand, we're using our thumbs for our compression between our metacarpals. So on those tendons on top of your hand, we're just separating those one by one. Moving on to the fingers. So we're doing our 3 circular frictions over the knuckles, rotating the finger and stretching that finger. Onto the palm of the hand. So we're just using our fingers, crossing our thumbs over, really pressing quite hard on here. Making circular movements, just make sure you cover all of that palm. I'm rotating that hand now. And we're going to finish off with our effleurage movements. So we're starting with our broad sweeping effleurage. So we're going down the chest, over the shoulders and up the neck. Moving into our figure 8, So one hand follows the other, crossing over the chest, down under the shoulder, and then back again. We're draining the axillary, so we're pressing down with our thumbs at the same time. This is our knuckling effleurage, so the same area as our normal effleurage, but we're just bringing our knuckles. So down across the chest, over the shoulder, bringing those knuckles right into that back and right up that neck. This needs to be quite firm. Slightly turn my model's head to the side. I'm just going to knuckle into the neck. This needs to be firm but not too hard. Just going to finish off with our broad sweeping effleurage again. Down the chest, across the shoulders, behind the back and up the neck. Going to finish by just giving my client a very gentle squeeze. Moving on to my model's second arm, I'm just going to do exactly what we did on the first arm, making sure that my movements are nice and slow. I'm always making sure that my knees are bent and I'm not arching my back, and I'm just watching my model's facial expressions, making sure that she looks nice and relaxed. Starting on our first leg, working on the back of the leg. Again, the camera angle doesn't show my hands very clearly, so I'm going to explain the movements when we move on to my model's second leg. But just keep note of how slow my movements are, the positioning of my body. Got my knees bent when needed, I'm not arching my back, and I'm just moving really slowly over the leg. Just applying the massage medium, making sure it's evenly spread. We're going to start with our effleurage movements, covering the entire leg. And just like every other time, these are slow movements, nice and fluid. One hand following the other. We're going to move on to our effleurage movements over the lower leg now. We're using our double-handed knuckling, covering the entire surface of that calf. We're going to use both of our thumbs now. We're going to separate the gastrocnemius muscle. So bringing our thumbs together and bringing it up between and separating that muscle. Back to our effleurage movements. I'm going to do 3 of those before we move on to the upper leg. We're going to do 3 effleurage movements, but these are a little bit deeper, so you can use quite a lot of pressure here. Moving on to our V stroke, so we're using our knuckles and really working into that muscle, into a V movement. Bending my knees, and we're working on our double kneading. So again, we're like pinching the skin, moving our hands backward and forwards. We're going to knuckle the outer thigh now. So just circling our knuckles, working our way right up to the top of that leg. Back to our effleurage movements, but this one we're using our palm in our hand to really press up into that glute. Into our wringing movements, so like we're wringing out a towel, working over the entire back of that leg. Our appointment. And then we're going to finish off with our 3 effleurage movements. Moving on to our back massage. So we're going to do our 3 effleurage movements over the entire back. Standing on my client's right hand side. We're going to do our 3 deep staggered effleurage. So I have one hand on top of the other, and you can see that I'm working in sections. So the bottom half, come up to the middle, and then back up to the top. So I'm just focusing on that right hand side of the body, the same side that I'm standing on. We're going to come in and we're going to knead into that shoulder and over that trapezium. And going really nice and firm, really trying to lift up that muscle, especially over that shoulder and into that neck. This is where most people hold a lot of their tension. Over that shoulder, into that arm. Move into our appointment. Just working on the area that we've just been massaging. This is our palmar crossing. So we've got one hand following the other. Again, we're just working on the right hand side of the body, the same side that you're standing on. This is our kneading, so we're just working over that spine. Not too much pressure here. Just backwards and forwards. Now we're petrissage over the sacrum lower back. So I've just got one hand on top of the other. Let's see how I'm turning over. Into our palmar crossing again, so one hand follows the other. 3 effleurage movements before we move to the head of the bed. Just making that transition. And we're going to do our effleurage movements. This one we cover the shoulders and we come up the neck. So working down, over the shoulders and up the neck. Using our thumbs to apply deep pressure, we're just working around that scapula on either side. And we're going to knuckle over the scapula again and up into the neck. This one can be quite firm as well. Lots of tension here. Three effleurage movements. Before we move on to our model's left hand side. We're going to repeat the first half of that back massage on the second side. So we're going to start with our effleurage movements again. And now we're doing our staggered effleurage. We've got one hand on top of the other, working in those 3 sections again. Got the bottom half into the middle of the back and then up the top over that shoulder. Into our kneading, over the shoulder. Again, this can be quite firm, there's lots of tension here. Covering that trapezium. Into our appointment, just covering that same section we've just been kneading. Now our palm crossing. One hand following the other. Nice and slow. Just focusing on that left hand side of our model's back. Into our sacrum, so the lower back, we've just got one hand on top of the other, making those big circles. Back into our palmar crossing. And now we're going to finish off with our effleurage movements. Nice and slow. Lots of pressure. And then we will cover up our model.